So fellas, since Tom Aspinall's just been confirmed to be taking on Curtis Blaydes in the co-main event of UFC 304, I thought I'd matchmake Tom Aspinall against every single heavyweight currently ranked in the top 10 of the heavyweight division. Now, before I get into it, I'm not going to be including fighters who Aspinall's already beaten, so I'm not going to be including Pavlovich or Tabura or Spivak, but I will include Alexander Volkov because Volkov's on a bit of a streak, and if Volkov can beat Pavlovich at UFC Saudi Arabia, Aspinall versus Volkov 2 could be a possibility. So, matchmaking Tom Aspinall against every single heavyweight in the top 10, from the top 10 guy to the champion. And we'll start off, since he's going to be taking him on at UFC 304, with the rematch against Curtis Blaydes. Curtis Blaydes is one of the most difficult fights for Tom Aspinall in the division. I've heard people saying that Curtis Blaydes is easy work. That's not the case. Curtis Blaydes stylistically is really difficult because, unlike the rest of the heavyweights, there isn't just one route to beating Curtis Blaydes. He's got good, accurate, and powerful hands, and obviously, he's one of the best wrestlers, if not the best wrestler in the heavyweight division. He's a really tricky fight for anyone. He was able to shut down the hype train of Almeida. So for Aspinall versus Blaydes 2, I think it's going to be Aspinall being a bit cautious on the feet. We saw in the first 15 seconds they went and traded. I don't think Aspinall's going to try and trade with Curtis Blaydes. I think he's going to be really wary. I think the first bit of the fight is going to be on the feet until eventually Aspinall's going to do what he does best. He's going to dart in with a 1-2, land a big shot on Curtis Blaydes and wobble him. He's not going to KO him, he's going to wobble him. And at this point, Aspinall's not going to go in for the kill because he knows that Curtis Blaydes has a double leg, and Curtis Blaydes is going to do just that. He's going to shoot in there with a double leg takedown against Aspinall after he's just been caught, and Aspinall's going to stuff the takedown. But I feel like Aspinall's just going to get him against the cage and beat the shit out of him until eventually he drops Curtis Blaydes with a big shot while he's against the cage and finishes him with ground and pound. And this is what I think is going to happen. Like I said, Blaydes is a really difficult fight, so I feel like Aspinall's going to be a little bit cautious at the beginning of this fight. They're going to be quite wary on the feet. Aspinall's going to be attacking him with those leg kicks until eventually he darts in with a big 1-2, wobbles Blaydes. Blaydes tries initiating grappling. Aspinall rejects it, backs Curtis Blaydes against the cage, waits for Blaydes to, throw his big shots, and then Aspinall goes in for the kill while Blaydes is against the cage. Maybe chucks a couple knees in there, and he will KO Curtis Blaydes, or TKO to Curtis Blaydes in the first round at UFC 304. That is my prediction for that fight. Difficult fight for Aspinall, but I feel like he's going to be a lot more wary rather than just going in there heads first, trying to trade with him like he did at UFC London. Next fight we've got is Aspinall versus Cyril Gane. This was supposed to happen, but Cyril Gane's apparently shooting a movie. I mean, what way to show that you're the best contender by shooting a movie and rejecting any offer that the UFC gives you? But for Aspinall versus Cyril Gane, it's just going to be... Right, so the fight's going to start off on the feet, and I don't think anyone's going to be, beating it. I don't think there's going to be one significant winner on the feet. I think Cyril Gane's going to be landing some nice shots. Aspinall's going to be trying to time Cyril Gane, because Cyril Gane's really good on the back foot. And I feel like Aspinall's going to do a lot of feinting, and I think he's going to go in with a 1-2 a lot. He's going to try and headhunt Cyril Gane early on in the fight. Not to look for the knockout, but to raise Cyril Gane's guard up, so he's trying to defend the headshots until eventually, after Aspinall keeps going up top, he's going to fake one up top and go for a double leg takedown, and he's going to get that against Cyril Gane. Cyril Gane early on in the fight is going to be expecting takedowns. He knows that Aspinall's a good grappler, and if you look at all these recent losses, it's been because of grappling. So he's going to be expecting a takedown. So if Aspinall can, feint up top first and then go for a takedown, I think that's great for Aspinall, and him being one of the best wrestlers in the UFC, at least in the heavyweight division, I think he's going to take Cyril Gane down. Once Cyril Gane's down, it's game over. Aspinall's going to absolutely destroy him with elbows, similar to what he did with Alexander Volkov a few years ago. He's going to destroy Cyril Gane with elbows, make Cyril Gane worry about the ground and pound until eventually Aspinall will get a submission, and I think he will get a head and arm choke against Cyril Gane after beating him and slashing him with ground and pound, because let's be honest, Cyril Gane's got a set, Cyril Gane's not even a dangerous striker. It's not even like you put in Aspinall against like a dangerous striker. Cyril Gane likes beating, people up round after round, and he's not going to be able to do that against Aspinall when Aspinall's so well rounded. He's going to take him down, beat him with ground and pound, and find the submission. So that would be my prediction for Cyril Gane versus Aspinall. On the feet, really good fight. You've got two great strikers. Gane's one of the best in the heavyweight division, but the second it hits the mat, it is a wrap. Cyril Gane is done, as we've seen time and time again. Then we've got Tom Aspinall versus Almeida. Now, Almeida is one of the best grapplers in the heavyweight division. He did kind of get fraud checked in his last fight against Curtis Blaydes after he just kept going takedown after takedown, and he didn't really set anything up, and obviously Blaydes was able to capitalize on that. But Almeida's a great grappler. I feel like for the first half of this fight, it's going to be quite boring because I feel like Aspinall will be landing the big shots on the feet until eventually Almeida initiates grappling, and I don't think he's going to be able to take Aspinall down, at least not immediately. I think there's going to be a lot of clinching early on in this round. I think the first The first half of the first round, there's going to be a lot of clinching from Gelton Almeida, holding Aspinall against the cage. Aspinall maybe, you know, doing enough to stay on the feet. I don't think he's going to get taken down either. And maybe if he does get taken down, I trust Aspinall that he'll be able to get back up. So I think the first part of this fight will be quite boring against the cage until eventually, I think Aspinall's just going to land a big shot. Gelton Almeida's striking is not good. And when you're in there with Tom Aspinall, I feel like Aspinall's going to be in the clinch, go for a knee, land a big elbow, and just follow up with big ground strikes. Not ground strikes, big shots on the feet until eventually he drops Gelton Almeida, goes into guard, and beats the crap out of him. Similar to the Spivak fight, I guess, where he's going to be in the clinch, he's going to land a big shot and then follow up with a couple of big shots. Gelton Almeida on the feet is tossed. It's kind of like the Cyril Gane fight, but rather than you know, Gelton Almeida being done when it gets to the ground, he's done on the feet. So as long as Aspinall doesn't get taken down early, I believe in the first or second round he'll, you know, get a big shot while exiting the clinch, follow up with some strikes on the feet, get Gelton Almeida down with the strikes, and then finish him with ground and pound. And that is my prediction for Aspinall versus Gelton Almeida. But we need to see how Gelton Almeida does at UFC. What is he fighting at UFC 302 against Alexander Romanov? Then we've got the fight that everyone wants to see: Tom Aspinall versus Jon Jones. This is a really difficult fight to predict because I'm looking at their last performances and I'm looking at their skill, and I really think that Aspinall's got the capability to beat Jon Jones. Like, he's faster, he's more powerful, he's got more dangerous boxing, he's also well-rounded. Jones looked stiff on the feet against Cyril Gane. He looks unathletic as well. He was able to take Cyril Gane down, which fair play, but Cyril Gane's one of the worst grapplers in the UFC, at least in the heavyweight division. So for this fight, I really do feel like Aspinall's got the tools to go out there and finish Jones by knocking him out in the first round. He's going to go in there with a 1-2, land a big shot on Jones and KO him. But it's Jon Jones at the end of the day. Even if I do feel like Aspinall's better than Jones, it's Jon Jones, you know what I mean? I feel like if you're ever going to bet against Jon Jones, you're just signing yourself up for failure. So I'd pick Aspinall to KO Jones in the first round, but because it's Jon Jones, I feel like the dude would just find a way to win. It's Jon Jones at the end of the day. I feel like he'd either, I don't know, catch Aspinall on a submission, or maybe, I don't know, beat him with ground and pound. I just feel like Jon Jones would find a way to win, but my heart says Tom Aspinall. I really do. No, my brain, says Tom Aspinall. I really do feel like Aspinall's got the capability to beat Jon Jones, but there's a gut feeling that Jon Jones will find a way to get it done because it's Jon Jones. But if I had to bet money, I'd go Aspinall first round KO. On the feet, it's not even close. Aspinall would wreck Jones. But again, a difficult fight because Jones is well-rounded and he's never lost a fight before unless you count the Dominic Reyes fight. Then we've got a fight that could actually happen depending on what happens at UFC Saudi Arabia. If Alexander Volkov can go out there and beat Sergey Pavlovich at UFC Saudi Arabia, which is a big win for him. He's now on a 3-fight winning streak, all by way of finish. That is a big win for Alexander Volkov. And you know, if Aspinall beats Blaydes and Jones ain't ready, it looks like the next fight we're going to be seeing is Aspinall versus Volkov 2. If this fight was to happen, obviously we saw it the first time Aspinall demolished him in London, UFC London March 2022, I think it was. I think the second fight, I mean, obviously I need to see how Volkov does against Pavlovich, but I feel like Aspinall would just do exactly what he did in the first fight. He'd be very cautious on the feet. He doesn't want to get caught in it by a big shot by Alexander Volkov. They'll both be doing all right on the feet until eventually Aspinall feints, goes for a takedown, gets Volkov to the ground, and then beats him with ground and pound. I also think Aspinall's going to be attacking the leg. We saw Aspinall against Pavlovich. He was very keen on attacking the leg and slowing Pavlovich down. And if you look at Volkov versus Tuivasa was doing a lot of attacking Volkov's leg. So I feel like Aspinall would break down the leg of Alexander Volkov, but eventually his game plan will be to take Alexander Volkov down and beat him with ground and pound and find a submission. Pretty much exactly what happened in that first fight at UFC London. I've got Aspinall winning this one by either submission or ground and pound. And I also think he's going to try and break Volkov down, attacking to the leg and being very cautious on the feet. I don't think he's going to be darting in with a big 1-2 in this fight because Volkov's a very rangy guy. Okay, so for Derek Lewis versus Tom Aspinall, this is a weird one to predict because I feel like Tom Aspinall will just go out there and steamroll Derek Lewis, whether it be with grappling or on the feet. Very similar to how Pavlovich finished Derek Lewis, but it's hard to predict because Derek Lewis has a puncher's chance, right? He's the hardest hitter in the division, or at least one of the hardest hitters, so I'd give Derek Lewis like a 15 to 20% chance of landing a big shot on Tom Aspinall and somehow clipping him, but it's super unlikely. Tom Aspinall's most likely going to go in there, beat Derek Lewis on the feet, overwhelm him, and get the finish by TKO probably in the first round. So I'm picking Tom Aspinall to beat Derek Lewis by first round TKO, but Derek Lewis is a really hard guy to predict because sometimes he'll just whip out a random KO, but he seems to be getting these knockouts over fat, unranked heavyweights rather than the upper echelon of the heavyweight division. So I'm going to trust that Aspinall doesn't get KO'd by Lewis and that Aspinall is able to TKO Lewis in the first round. So that's Aspinall versus Lewis. And then finally, probably one of the most uncompetitive fights on this list, Tom Aspinall versus Stipe Miocic. Stipe Miocic, I mean, he's not in any way, any place to fight any ranked heavyweight right now. I mean, his last fight was a few years ago and he got knocked out by Francis Ngannou, and now you're putting him in there with the actual champion in John Jones. Bad idea. But for Aspinall versus Stipe, yeah, Aspinall's KOing him. Let's be honest. It's going very similar to the Ngannou fight. Stipe might try and initiate grappling, which he's just not going to get. Aspinall's going to be quicker, more powerful, more technical on the feet until eventually he lands a big shot that puts Stipe Miocic's lights out and he would get put out cold. That is me matching Tom Aspinall against every top 10 ranked heavyweight apart from the ones he's already beaten, and obviously excluding Volkov. Let me know your thoughts and predictions for Aspinall versus Curtis Blaydes at UFC Manchester, and if you agree with this, the fights that I've predicted on this list. And honestly, I think some of these are definitely, these could definitely happen. Aspinall versus Volkov 2 is a possibility. Aspinall versus Cyril Gane. I really do feel like we're going to be seeing Aspinall face a lot of these guys in the heavyweight division. So let me know your predictions. Thank you for watching.